Walking along a trail at the foot of Pikes Peak, you check and recheck your notes. By the time you take the fork in the path to the Anselm Society Digital Pub, you've decided on your final list. You think. Inside the pub is a raucous conversation on the arts, faith, and whether there are too many rules for this draft. At a corner table, by the fire, is a group of the most interesting people in the world. In front of them, bickering over who gets who at their table, are your three co-hosts. That's right, it's the 2020 Believe to See Fantasy Pub Table Draft! Whoa! Is that the streamers and balloons and confetti cannons? It is a party. We don't care if it's COVID right now. We are still having this draft, socially distanced, of course. COVID cannot stop the Fantasy Pub Table Draft. At least I don't think. Maybe I'm speaking too soon, but so far so good. My name is Matthew Mellema, and welcome to Believe to See. We are a podcast of the Anselm Society Arts Guild. The Anselm Society is a coalition of churches across the Front Range of Colorado dedicated to one very simple goal, a renaissance of the Christian imagination. To further this goal, we do all sorts of things, COVID permitting, of course. Each spring, we have our big Imagination Redeemed conference, which attracts folks from all across the country. We have a regular slate of concerts, lectures, and other events designed to foster love and understanding of arts and faith. And we have our own Guild of Artists right here in Colorado Springs. And when we aren't creating art, some of us like to podcast. And that's how we get Believe to See and the Fantasy Pub Table Draft. To find out more about the Anselm Society, please visit us at anselmsociety.org. And while you're at it, go ahead and check out Anselm's two other podcasts, Redeemed Imagination and Speaking with Joy. And since you're already doing stuff, maybe rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. That helps us a ton. Can't tell you how much we appreciate it. So let's just give that 5-star review right now. It'll take 10 seconds. I think I mentioned on the last podcast, I leave reviews now. So just do it. I've done it. It's not hard. All right. Back to the show. So once again, this is the 2020 Fantasy Pub Table. This is one of our favorite events of the year here at Believe to See. And let's see, how many years have we been doing this? It's the fourth, fifth, I don't know. It's several years in a row. And let me tell you, for any of their newer listeners, what we're doing. So in past years, we have had, a group of 3 or 4 of us, and we all take turns selecting people for the ultimate pub table throughout history. So of course, at a pub table, you have the 2 heads, then you have the sides. So we have 6 people. So in addition to you have 5 people to draft, and you're trying to create the most interesting pub conversation possible. So do you want interesting personalities? Do you want people you admire? Do you want people who you think would be really funny arguing with each other? I don't know. It's your pub table. But once it's all done, we are going to try to put this up to a vote for the Artist Guild. If I remember right, I've won every single year. I think that's right.
I don't think that's true.
Don't think so.
Who's to say? COVID and stuff. Who's to say? It's all so blurred. But
polls.
Fake news. But in past years, I've had a very hard and fast rule that I broke once or twice, whatever, that the person you're drafting had to be dead, because these are pub tables from, we're taking, their ghosts or whatever and reanimating the corpses. That's grosser than I meant it to sound. But this year, I decided to try to mix it up a little bit. So now, instead of drafting dead people, the person you draft has to be alive, and we're drafting them as they are right now. So it's basically where this person is in the world, we're plucking them out and placing them down at our pub table. And really, that's pretty much all the rules. Joined by our 2 co-hosts, Evangeline Denmark and Mandy Hauk. Mandy, Evangeline, how are you feeling on this draft day?
I'm
a little
good.
nervous.
How about you, Evangeline? Evangeline's nervous.
Yes, I'm a little nervous. I'm like confident in some of my picks. Some of them, I'm just hoping they can, come through for me.
I know.
Okay.
Same. I have been trying not to quote people I like on Facebook because I think that's why Matt thought that I wanted Mr. Rogers last time. So I've been trying really hard to avoid that just in case he's been, stalking. But I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I feel like I know who you want, Mandy. I think.
Shush.
So
yeah,
part
you
of me
probably
is
do.
like, do I just want to draft this person to take them from Mandy?
Ooh.
We'll see.
But
We'll
see,
see.
last time you deigned that you were going first just so you could take Mr. Rogers. So I don't know. I think you have to be a gentleman and let me go before you this time. I'm pretty.
I guess that's fair enough.
Yeah,
Okay,
wish we had
I'll allow
live
it.
feed.
Okay, so here's the draft order.
Okay.
As anyone who's ever been in like a fantasy football league knows, we're going to do a Serpentine Draft. So first round is 1, 2, 3, and then it goes 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. So like that, and then we'll just go through until we each have our 5 people and complete our ultimate pub table. So I'll go third to show I play fair. So how do we decide which one of you goes first and which one goes second? I know. Okay. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10.
I literally have no idea what you're talking about when you're like, fantasy football, Serpentine. I'm like, whatever, just tell me. Tell me when it's my turn.
Okay, you're thinking of a number?
I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. Mandy and Evangeline both guess. Whoever's closest gets to go first.
Okay, but then we have to trust you. I'm just kidding.
Whoa.
The claws are already out. No, I'm just kidding. All right, I picked 2.
I picked 7.
Evangeline, I was thinking of 7. Because of John Elway, the greatest quarterback in NFL history. So
that's why
Evangeline,
she was thinking that.
Evangeline, you get to go.
I picked my birthday.
Evangeline, you get to go first. Mandy will go second. Woo! I'll go third. Then the second round, I'll go first. Then Mandy, then Evangeline. Okay. So again, once someone's picked, you can't pick them again. And yeah, I think that does it for the rules. Oh, I should let you know, I think we should try to make it, they can't be people we've actually met or actually know in real life. So if you're trying to be like, oh, here's an artist I met at the conference last year, it's like, you can, I guess, but I'll probably look at you askance. Other than that, I think we're good. This is a fewer rules version. It's a new and improved me.
Okay.
So there we go. Okay, I just need to make it all a formal announcement. With the first pick in the first round of the 2020 Anselm Society Fantasy Pub Table Draft, Evangeline Denmark is on the clock.
Okay. My first guess is probably going to be a little bit shocking. I bet neither of you would guess or would think that I would pick this person.
Oh, man.
He needs to come in first and sit down like at the head of the table and have some time to vamp because he really likes to talk.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going with my number 1 pick, Russell Brand.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So
okay, do tell.
I know, out of the blue, right? So I never paid much attention to Russell Brand when he was famous. He was in silly movies and he had like a bit part in Penelope, which is my favorite movie. But anyway, he was like on the tabloids and it was, married to Katy Perry and whatever. And then a few years back, I happened to find an article that he wrote on addiction and recovery. And I was just blown away by the beauty and skill of his writing. I was like, me, I love words. So I was just all over this. I could not believe, and I hadn't followed his journey. I didn't know, what had gone on or that he had been through recovery or anything like that. So, whatever, I read this article and then later I happened to hear him on a podcast, I think it was. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's really interesting. And so I've just caught him on YouTube videos and he gives these like thoughtful, refreshing perspectives in his amazing Cockney accent. And he like hurls out words like one of my previous agents called them like $1 million words and told me that I should use fewer of them. But Russell's allowed to use all of them. I surrender my, $1 million words and he can do them because I just think he would be a lot of fun to converse with. And I think he would set an off-kilter tone to my table and kind of disarm other guests and maybe make them more likely to talk or more comfortable or maybe like out of their normal mindset so they would share. So I'm going with him to shake up my table from the get-go.
I like it.
Oh man, well, joining a class of the first overall picks in the fantasy draft it's very impressive. He's joining the likes of G.K. Chesterton and Fred Rogers. Now that'd be a fun table, those three getting together.
Ooh,
but
yeah.
I will say on
the
Russell Brand thing, I've just sort of stumbled across him more and more recently, just like random, like, I don't know, like a video will pop up on the internet. And he's one of those people, seems maybe a little insane, but also has like, he's unusual and has thoughtful opinions where you're like, oh, I didn't expect you to say that, because has this energy where like, like in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Mom, don't worry, I've only seen the edited TV version, okay? But in the edited TV version, he plays like the jerk rock star who the protagonist's girlfriend leaves him for. And he's perfect for that because he's tall, he's handsome, he's British, and he has this sort of obnoxious but cool energy. So, yeah, I could see that being good. He is a very strong personality, but I could see him also getting other people involved.
Right.
Exactly.
I don't think he's mercurial necessarily. I think he could be reined in and he would listen.
I think so. Brene Brown got him to, she really head to head with him. Oh, she's wonderful. She's not on my list.
Yes. I was going to say, don't tip your hand.
Oh, no. No, I heard an interview with the two of them, and it was fantastic. So I feel like he could talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nicely done. Yeah.
Okay. Well, starting with the bang. So now moving over to pick 2, Mandy. Wait, I need to announce it. With the second pick of the first round of the 2020 Anselm Society Fantasy Pub Table Draft, Mandy Houck is now on the clock.
Yeah, it really is a new you like releasing all the rules and stuff. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. I love it. Okay, well, I am going to go with who I assume Matt assumes I want.
Yep.
And it's going to be a big swing from Russell Brand. But I actually think they would like each other as well. Gotta go with sweet 86-year-old Wendell Berry.
Oh.
Is that who you thought, Matt?
That's not who I thought you were going to pick, but I should have realized. I should have realized.
Yeah, I couldn't help it. I actually did quote him yesterday, but that was Anita's fault because she quoted him. But anyway, I got to go Wendell Berry. I absolutely love him. I wanted him on my pub table last year, and then I had this weird experience of being bummed that he wasn't dead because I was trying to follow the dead rule. So
dead rule.
Then I felt bad that I was wishing Wendell Berry dead, but now I'm excited he's alive. So I'm assuming people listening know, but just in case, he's not only an essayist and a novelist and a poet, but he also taught at the University of Kentucky. And he's a farmer. He's farmed and lived on the same land since 1965. And I don't know if you know this. Talk about being unplugged. He not only doesn't have social media, he only has a landline, and he does not have an answering machine.
Wow.
So, we're talking like pre-80 level of commitment. And I'm like, you know what? That's probably why he's so wise. Is because, but he also is really active in I don't know if he would call himself an environmentalist, which has such a connotation, but he just really is into stewardship of the earth and taking care of nature and just really loving God's creation and coming at it from that side. And I had a quote from him that I love. Is it okay? Can I share a quote? Because I'm sure he would just say stuff like this just off the cuff at the pub table. He said, to go into the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go without sight, and find that dark too blooms and sings and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. So that's actually from a poem. Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah.
And
so I just love Wendell Berry.
And let's be real, the Venn diagram of people who like Wendell Berry and the sort of people who like what the Anselm Society does. There's, I thought
it was a safe pick. It was a safe pick.
Yes, absolutely. And I will say one very random thing I've seen with Wendell Berry. There is a poem that I want to make it clear. I discovered it before it was cool. I just found it in a poetry collection, and I've seen it getting posted more and more in our fractured and unprecedented times. So this seems to be a poem of the moment. And do y'all mind if I read it? It's a short poem.
Sure.
It's called The Peace of Wild Things.
I knew it was going to be this one.
Yay!
And again,
Go for it.
imagine I had Joel Clarkson's voice instead of my own, but here we go.
Okay.
The poem antidote for 2020. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world, and am free. Wendell Berry, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. I know. Yay. Thanks for advertising for my table. I appreciate it.
I guess I shouldn't have done that, but whatever. Oh.
No, I just love him. Love him. So anyway, so that's my first pick.
Okay. So,
Woo-hoo.
solid first two picks. I'm going to pick someone partly because I really want her at my table, and partly because I'm afraid if I don't take her, you guys will take her along the way back. And that is, of course, J.K. Rowling. Come on.
Oh,
Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Again, are we really an Anselm podcast if we don't draft her? But I just think, well, first of all, something I was struggling with as I was putting together my list is, do I want to meet my heroes? You know, like,
yeah.
There's part of me like, you know, I'm a big sports fan, but I don't want to meet any of the players I like. So I'm like, oh, what if they're a jerk? And I'll color my perspective of them. It's like, that's sort of the way with this. I have some other people who are like famous artists or thinkers. Like, do I really want to meet them? But I think J.K. Rowling would be a good conversation. She had an interesting life story before Harry Potter. Now she, you know, there's the whole Harry Potter thing, which would just be whole universes of interesting stories. And now she's, you know, still out there in the world. I just think she has a lot of very interesting opinions. The way she wrote Harry Potter means she clearly has read deeply and widely from a lot of works that matter. And she is someone who I think would be an excellent addition to my table. So
there you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
I like
so
it.
Did you care to talk about how nice of a pick it was, Evangeline? How you're wishing you would have picked her first? And any of these are valid opinions.
I never even thought of her. And I would love to meet her. I know.
I didn't either, but
it
has.
Week.
Yeah. But no, I think it's a really good pick. I think she would be really fascinating. I don't know why, but I feel like she'd be a good listener. What am I basing that on? I don't know.
Maybe the fact that she's British. I think that might have part of it.
Probably.
Also, another thing, there's Harry Potter, but she also has written a really good series of detective novels. So that would be something else great to talk about.
Oh,
they're pretty good.
Oh, that's cool.
So the Cormoran Strike series.
Okay.
I think they're quite good. It's interesting, though, because they're not, like, super bad or anything, but they have some cussing and some suggested innuendo. So hearing it from J.K. Rowling, it's like, oh my goodness.
Oh, no.
This is like rated PG-13. But
did she get blowback from parents who
I doubt it, but
differently? Okay. Yeah, I guess J.K. Rowling probably doesn't get blowback.
I think I told
she does.
Oh, yes, she does. Sorry, I forgot.
She's famous enough she gets blowback on everything, but
I just remembered. Yes, she does. Never mind.
The Cormoran Strike thing, it was sort of like going out with your aunt and your aunt's like having one too many drinks and telling a dirty joke. It's like, oh my gosh, Aunt Margaret, what's going on here? So that's what the Cormoran Strike series is like. But okay, J.K. Rowling, first person at my table. And now for my second pick, Mandy, I'm going to be super honest with you. There were three people who I knew I wanted. Then the last two, I just kept going back and forth. I just couldn't get one. So this one, I think I might use one of my slots trying to steal someone from you.
I'm shocked. I would never expect anything like that from you.
I know.
Weird. That's unprecedented.
So, Mandy, I'm going to take this person. I have read some of the stuff they have written. I found it quite good. I didn't finish it for reasons we can discuss. But mainly, I just want to mess with your team. So, I'm taking Lee Banger.
No! Oh, I almost... No, he's not on my list, but he was in my top 10.
No! Wow. So he's your honorable mention. Okay, so
I actually met him. He is delightful.
Well, there you
delightful.
go. He'll be a great addition to my table.
She couldn't have picked him because she met him.
That's true by your rules. But also,
I felt wasn't a rule. It's the protocol that a raised eyebrow. But Mandy, why don't you tell me why I've made such a nice pick?
Didn't? Oh, well, I was going to say the reason I didn't pick him is I felt like he and Wendell Berry would have a very similar energy. And by the way, it's Leif Inger. Which I did not know until I met him. So fortunately, I didn't say hi, Leif. Yeah, but no, it was at a book signing at Tattered Cover in Denver. And no, that's wrong. But anyway, whatever. It was at a book signing. And the announcer said it, Leif. And I was like, oh my gosh, I taught 4 years of classes saying Leif. I have to contact all my students. Anyway, no, he would be an excellent. No, I'm not going to advertise. Why am I advertising your pick for you? No, he's good. He's great. I didn't like his second book, which I don't think he did either. So I think that's okay for me to say that. So Brave, Young, and Handsome. They didn't even mention
happens, doesn't it?
They didn't even mention it at the book signing. So they talked about Peace Like a River. And then they're like, and we've been waiting. And now 10 years later, we have Virgil Wander. And they didn't even mention
be honest, we've all written something like that we're like, I'm glad that's not out there. I hate that book now.
I know. I think it would have been good if we hadn't had Peace Like a River to compare it to.
It's too high of a bar.
He's just brilliant. It really is. So why do you like him, Matt? I want to know that you actually know about him.
I know plenty about him, Mandy. It wasn't the main reason I picked him was game theory to try to mess up your team. But I also, I know Peace Like a River has come highly recommended by a lot of people, including you. I have made it partway through it. I thought it was excellent and very thought-provoking and beautiful.
Keep going. Keep going.
I did not finish it because you guys are going to think I'm ridiculous. There's a scene about toward the end of the first act that involves legal charges brought against one of the characters, and I thought
did they do it wrong?
And it really drove me nuts as a lawyer. So that's one reason. And I know that's stupid.
Put lawyer Matt aside and then go back in as reader and writer Matt.
Okay. Please. Okay.
It's so beautiful.
As I was doing it, I was like, this is petty, Matt. This petty was like, no, but he got it wrong. That wouldn't have happened. Blah, 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 blah.
I also highly recommend following him on Instagram because he is almost as good at taking photos as he is at writing. And then his captions are even better than the photos. And he flies kites. He attaches cameras to the kites and takes pictures, so probably a GoPro. But he's just delightful to follow.
So as all the listeners can see, I've really messed up the flow of Mandy's table because she'll be trying to listen to the people at her table. Then Leif Inger will describe something of his photography. She'll just be wandering over, drifting. It's like, oh, really Leif.
I know. What'd you say? I'll lean back in my chair and fall over, and Wendell Berry won't be able to help me up because he's 86. It'll be sad.
Exactly. So checkmate, I guess. But back to you, Mandy, for the second pick in the second round of the 2020 Anselm Society Fantasy Pub Table Draft.
Well, wait a minute. No, don't you pick two in a row, Serpentine?
Oh, I did. So I had J.K. Rowling and Leif Inger.
Oh, yeah, you did. Oh, I'm sorry. You rattled me so badly that I forgot. I'm sorry. Okay, so my second one, I don't know if you guys will have heard of her, but that's part of the reason I'm putting her at my table so that everyone listening, because I'm sure there are legion of listeners, all of you get your thumbs ready to Google Faith Ringgold. So it's faith, just like faith, hope, and love. And then Ringgold, compound word, Ringgold. So she is even older than Wendell Berry. She is another person I wanted at my table and then was bummed that she was alive. So thanks for making me evil in that way.
You've got to stop saying this.
Got to stop doing that. Yeah.
89 years old. Wow.
Yeah. So she'll be 90 in October. So,
but I think I know who she is.
And actually her mother lived to 110. So she'll probably keep going. Okay. So Faith Ringgold, I ran across her when I was homeschooling my children because we had this really awesome curriculum that really integrated literature and art. And she is most famous for what she calls her story quilts. But what she started doing, just real quick, the reason I really want her at my table is just because she has just faced so much adversity because she's African American and a woman. She actually was a child in Harlem, growing up in Harlem during the Harlem Renaissance. So Langston Hughes literally lived around the corner from her. Wow. Wasn't he on your table last year?
He was.
He
okay.
was.
Yeah. I'll give you this. This is a good pick.
So she's like, so the first thing she wanted to do was go to art school, but they wouldn't allow women to go to art school. So she had to enroll in the education school at the same college and major in art. So that's the way she sort of tricked her way into art. But then her whole life, because in the 50s and 60s, here she is not only Black, but also a woman trying to get displayed in galleries. And she said she would just walk around with her art under her arm. And yeah, so she just kept persevering. Like, I really feel like I would have given up and been like, okay, never mind. I'll teach art. But she didn't. And so she did a lot of good for getting women. Mostly she, in the 50s and 60s, made progress getting women represented in the arts. And then in the 70s, she started to really feel like she needed to connect more with her African American heritage. And her mother was a seamstress, so she knew how to sew. And she felt like the seamstress aspect was more of an African art form than painting. So what she started to do is she would make quilts and she would paint her paintings on the quilt. And then she was trying to write an autobiography and no one would publish it. So she just started writing her stories on the quilt, on the border. So one of her most, right? Is that cool? So anyways, one of her most famous, and this is the art piece that the girls and I ran across. This is how I was introduced to her, is because she painted this thing called Tar Beach, which is what inner city people apparently call the roofs of buildings. They call it the Tar Beach. So there's a painting on the quilt of this little family, this African-American family, having a cookout on the roof, and they look like they're at the beach, but they're not. They're on the roof. And it has her little story written all around it in her handwriting and everything. So just the way that she has tackled the obstacles in front of her and the way she's addressed them creatively is just amazing. And she's still making art today. Now she makes sculptures, soft sculpture. She actually, you'll like this, Matt. She made a life-size soft sculpture of Wilt Chamberlain. That's a big dang sculpture.
That is a very big
what
sculpture.
What is he, 7'3"?
Something like that. So soft
I just
sculpture.
feel like
what does that mean?
Soft
it's like
sculpture. It's stuffed, so it doesn't stand up. It's suspended from the ceiling by wires.
Oh
yeah,
my gosh, so interesting.
I know. And so, and a lot of her, Tar Beach for one, a lot of her story quilts have been turned into children's books, and it has all the art and the story. So she has like 16 children's books that are just based on her art. So she's just a Renaissance woman, which I guess makes sense because she was a child during the Harlem Renaissance. But yeah. So anyway, so I would just love to meet her. That was one of my, like you were saying, Matt, do I want to meet my heroes? She's someone I would just want to like sit there and go, tell me stuff. Tell me cool stuff. You know? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing
and I think she and Wendell would be cool together. So
look, I'm doing a Google image search of all of her paintings and all of her other art. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that one. That was a good one.
Incredible.
Oh, she also painted an anti-incarceration mural at a women's prison.
Wow.
So that's kind of bold.
That's awesome.
I can't remember which prison, but anyway, yeah.
I think that we're going to have some similarities with our table, Mandy, because I have sort of a theme of perseverance and people that I really just want to sit and listen to them talk.
Okay.
So I think that maybe we're in the same place here in, September
we can
of
just
2020.
pull our tables together.
We're just like, give me wisdom. Let me sit
Tell
and listen
me
to
stuff.
you.
Make me feel better.
Yeah. It's just, or not even make me feel better, but like, let me just sit here and listen to you.
Soak it in. In. So there you go. I'm done with that pick.
Awesome.
Whew,
okay.
I need a nap.
Well done.
All right. So now with the third pick in the second round of the 2020 Anselm Society Fantasy Pub Table Draft, Evangeline Denmark is now on the board.
Woohoo! Okay, I'm going with one of my favorite authors. To me, this author is like the girl at school who's everything that you want to be, but it seems totally effortless. You know that feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yes,
my number
definitely.
2 pick is Maggie Stiefvater. So if you don't know that name, you should.
Is that the time traveler's wife?
Oh, no.
Maggie.
No, so Maggie writes YA fantasy, and she incorporates like lots of mythology, which, you know, I love. And, you know, like for me, my favorite like story worlds to inhabit are those that are like right on the edge of real world and fantasy.
Right.
And she just is flawless at that. That's her sweet spot. So she took on like kind of right around when Twilight was big. She had this werewolf series, but it was just not, I mean, I shouldn't say werewolf. People who became wolves, but it was just totally different. It was so human and like tragic
Mandy,
and beautiful.
I think people who became wolves are werewolves. I mean,
I think so.
I'm Evangeline. Yeah. I'm Evangeline. But okay.
Well, who did I call you?
You called me Mandy.
Oh. No, he was just telling me.
Oh, so exactly. You like kibitzing. Okay. Yeah. I'll allow it. Okay. So the Raven Cycle is her series that's like private school boys who are in their like, you know, downtime searching for this mythical Welsh king. And
that like, is so you.
I love it. Like,
actually, I just Googled her and I remember one of my daughters read Shiver. I don't know which one. That's her.
Yeah.
So and yes, I am familiar.
I don't love those as much as I love the Raven Cycle, which is just phenomenal. But my favorite of her, which I'm sure I've talked about on the podcast before, is the Scorpio Races. It is one of the best books that I've ever read. It's Kelpies or they Kapelushka in the book, which is like a Gaelic version of water horses. And this book, so I finished that book and cried. Not because it was so sad, but because it was like so good.
Over?
That I just like could not take it.
I have cried that a book was over before. Have you ever done that? I'm like, but I don't get to hang out with these people anymore. Yes.
I'm not an easy crier when it comes to movies and books, but yeah, that was just like sobbing. Like, I can't believe this book exists. And now
this is good. This is like my Christmas list right here. I'm going to buy one. Yeah. Okay.
And if you do audio at all, listen to the audio version because there's 2 narrators, and if they're not both Irish, then they can do a damn good job impersonating Irish people.
Oh, the accents are a big thing.
Oh, yeah. And it's like perfect. So, but anyway, Maggie's like just a hero of mine. She's a musician. She loves cars. So I'm like, I don't know how you could be any cooler, but I would just love to listen to her talk about mythology and blending real world and fantasy because, you know me, I eat that stuff up. So,
and I could see her and Russell enjoying each other.
I think that they would. I think, oh my goodness. Yeah. I think that they would really hit it off. So she's my number 2 pick.
Okay.
Evangeline, it's your first pick in the 3rd round.
Okay. So you guys had to know that like the hardest part about Matt's parameters for the pub table is that I'm not allowed to have Yates. Right?
I know. I was thinking that. Yeah. He's dead.
I'm like,
not unless he's still alive, like he was kidnapped into the fairy realm or something.
It's okay though. You had Hot Yates. You had Hot Yates a couple years ago.
I know.
But you want him back.
I would have had him back.
Hashtag Hot Yates.
I'm like, I'm not even sure how to.
Hot Yates.
Exactly. How do I like do this without my dead Irish boyfriend?
I don't know.
So I had to find myself a romantic, melancholy Irish lad to fill that void, right?
Oh,
yeah. Okay, so for my 3rd choice, I'm going with Irish singer-songwriter Dermot Kennedy, who is like my new favorite everything.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You sent me links. Yes.
Yeah,
love
so the
him.
first song that I ever heard by him was called Glory. Look it up. It's amazing.
Okay.
And it just like popped into my Spotify rotation. And, you know, I was like, what is this? You know how that happens? You're just like all of a sudden completely transfixed. So I have another writer friend who I send songs to. Mandy and I send songs to each other. And then this other writer friend So I, sent her Dermot's songs, and we both, like just fell in love with his music. And then he blew up. He got so popular. And I was in the grocery store. I know. I was in the grocery store and I heard his song, and I like stopped and texted my friend, and I'm like, Dermot's in a grocery store. They're playing his song. Right. I'm like, well, how dare they? He's ours.
No. Now, do you have the receipts? Can you prove that you liked him before he was cool?
Oh, I probably can. Yeah. I think, how Spotify gives you that like year in review thing, like at the end of the year. So I probably can, because I have the receipt. So anyway, he seems like really genuine. I went to his concert, and he's one of those people that's like super humble. They have that super humble vibe, but it's not fake. And like, I was standing next to this college guy who was absolutely just singing at the top of his lungs, and like, I mean, it looked like he was crying. This just college dude. And I'm like, what is going on?
Wow.
But
that's so great.
Dermot seems like a pretty private person, but this is my fantasy pub table, and at my fantasy pub table, he talks and like gives me all the like details about his artistic process that I'm like dying to know. And, maybe Russell and Maggie will help me draw him out a little bit, or draw him out for me, and I'll just sit there.
Yes, you will glean the benefits.
Yes.
Now, a couple concerns, if you'll allow me to concern troll you here.
Smack talk.
Are you afraid that Dermot and Russell is these two, very famous, very cool people from the United Kingdom, Great Britain, will clash, especially when you consider Russell Brand is English, Dermot Kennedy's Irish. There's some historical animosity there. Russell Brand, you can picture him telling a joke about the Irish that goes a little too far. Dermot being Irish might start a bar fight. I mean, who knows?
No, like that
sounds like a fun night.
It does sound like a fun night, but it's like completely opposite from Dermot's vibe, and Russell is now this like, super try to be peacemaker kind of person. So maybe old Russell, but we're talking about Russell as he is now, which
that was your rule. That was your rule,
I don't
Matt.
really know the guy, but he seems to be trying to be a very decent human being.
New Russell gets a couple drinks in him. He's at a table with an Irishman. He might turn back into old Russell. Hashtag.
New Russell is sober.
He is sober, Matt. That would not.
New Russell is sober. Nice try.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Dermot might get a few pints, but I can only imagine him being charming.
That'll make him nicer.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, do you think Dermot will be
romantic?
Now, do you think Dermot will be upset when I happen to mention to him that the only reason he was picked is that you needed a melancholic Irishman to replace Dead Yates? Yes, the Yates stand-in.
I bet we could talk about Yates.
I bet he'd be flattered.
Any Irish artist worth their salt has got to know Yates.
That's true.
Yeah,
by the way, I loved how you called Yates your dead Irish boyfriend. That should be the title of your next YA book. My dead Irish boyfriend.
I thought it was my band name. It's like my band name. My dead Irish boyfriend.
Yes.
There you go. Okay, Mandy, now we're back over to you with the second pick in the third round of the 2020 Fantasy Pub Table Draft.
I don't know how you keep track of all these numbers. You're impressive. Well, okay.
I've played a lot of fantasy football over the years, Mandy.
That's true. Okay. All right. Pick number 3, Stephen Sondheim.
Oh.
I know you thought I was going to say King, and I was thinking about King, and I was going back and forth, but Bethany was over here this afternoon doing laundry, my musical theater fan daughter, and she was like, no, of course it's Stephen Sondheim, and she convinced me.
Well, you know, he is 90 years old.
He is. I know. Look
you
at
have some
my
old
table.
people. Yeah.
Wow. I do. I gotta like get them while they're alive, and the rule is still that they're alive. But
I don't know. I'm concerned. You guys better all have masks and be distancing, because these are national treasures.
That is true.
Is this? I was assuming this was a non-COVID pub.
Oh, right.
Yeah, does COVID exist at the fantasy pub table?
I think it's fantasy.
Yes.
If it's fantasy, why the freak would we bring COVID into our fantasy with us? Of course it doesn't. No.
Okay, fine. Okay. Have it your way, Mandy.
Okay, be careful, just in case.
Just in case. So yes, he is 90. You're Googling these people really fast. So yes, he's 90. He was born Jewish, but he actually went to a Quaker school growing up. And this was a little bonus as I was Googling to find stuff. I actually lived in the town he grew up in at very different times. But, well, I don't know. Maybe he still lived there when I lived there. Anyway, he grew up on a farm outside of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, which is where I lived for 2 years when I was 9 and 10. And weirdly, there's a lot of famous writers, like John Updike is from there. It's like this tiny little town in Pennsylvania, but like it fosters the arts. So anyway, so Stephen Sondheim, yeah, so he has won more Tonys than any other composer on Broadway, plus a Life Achievement Tony. He's won Grammys, Pulitzer Prize, Oscar, all the stuff. I don't know if, I guess I should say for the audience, he's most famous for Into the Woods and Sunday in the Park with George. And actually he wrote the lyrics for West Side Story, but not the music.
Oh man.
Yeah. So, and tons of other things. If Bethany were here, she would be yelling into the microphone for me. But
is anyone else doing the snaps from like the dance fight at the beginning of West Side Story now?
Oh, right.
Oh, yes.
One of the
that's
scenes
exactly what I'm doing.
in all-time history of film where it's like, this is amazing and ridiculous at the same time. And
At the same time.
I don't know if I'm impressed or if I'm laughing at it, but I'm feeling some stuff
brilliant.
here.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. Officer Krupke. Yep. Anyway, so I think my fascination with Stephen Sondheim, particularly with Into the Woods, is because that is my favorite musical and Bethany's as well. He is so well acquainted with darkness and sadness and the potential for people to hurt one another. But then there's always, I don't know where he finds his hope, because as best I can tell, I don't think he knows Jesus yet. I'm praying. I actually do pray for him sometimes when I think of it, because he is so close. There are certain songs that he writes, like where you're like, you get it, but you don't all the way yet. You know what I mean? And Into the Woods is a perfect example of that, because he just sees the pain that people inflict on each other and what could be if we would just be better versions of ourselves, which of course as Christians we know we can't be without the grace of Christ. And so it's just like, he's so close. And I actually, when I was looking him up, this is really sad. So one of the reasons I want him at my table is I just want to give him a hug, because I found out his mother was an absolutely horrible person. She wrote him a letter late in life. Like, I don't even know why. They'd been estranged for years because she was abusive. And she wrote him a letter and told him her only regret in life was giving birth to him.
Oh,
so that man
terrible.
needs a hug.
Oh,
he needs a hug.
Yeah, after he's already probably famous. Yeah. Interesting.
Being famous is not enough. So, yeah. Oh, you mean she wrote that too? Yes.
Yeah, she wrote that.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, that also kind of makes you go, that's how he knew that people could be horrible. So obviously he channels that pain and makes it into beautiful things. But I just would really like to meet. And if he can write lyrics like that, just imagine what a conversationalist he would be.
Oh, yeah.
So that's my third pick.
Okay. The Mandy Houck table of the oldie but goodie. That should be the name of your table.
You don't know my last two. You don't?
Obviously I don't, because I picked Leif Enger thinking that was one of your picks, but
he almost was. So good guess. Very good guess.
Okay, so my next pick. So third pick in the third round of the 2020 Anselm Society Fantasy Pub Table Draft. I'm going to go, this may surprise some people, because as I've probably explained before, I'm an attorney, and I'm one of those attorneys in the FedSoc originalist camp. I love me some originalism. I love me some Scalia opinions.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What lexicon are you speaking from?
Well, my FedSoc brothers and sisters will know. But anyway, so let me put it this way. I picked.
It's not for us to know, Mandy.
I picked Antonin Scalia for my pub table last year because he was the Supreme Court justice who I may have admired the most. Yeah. But this year, I'm going to take someone from the opposite side because I think she's super interesting. I'm picking Justice Elena Kagan
Oh,
So
I almost picked Ruth Bader Ginsburg, so I thought you were about to say her.
now,
Elena
totally,
Kagan.
with respect, Elena
Yes.
Kagan is a way better justice and more interesting person than Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or Notorious RBG as she's known in legal circles.
Yes, I did not know that.
Elena Kagan is probably the most interesting and maybe the smartest person on the Supreme Court right now. She is on the liberal wing. She's an Obama appointee. So again, as a FedSoc person, I'm supposed to dislike her, but I just can't doggone it because I think she's a good justice. Her opinions are very well written and clever, have a lot of very pithy one-liners in them. And I also think her approach to some of the high-profile cases that have to do with, like, religious liberty, LGBT rights, all this stuff, I think she has taken a very interesting sort of middle way that respects the rights of all people involved. So
Wow,
I just
concept.
think talking about that would be very interesting. And also, she was a law clerk for Justice Marshall, so Thurgood Marshall, who is also one of the most important lawyers in the history of this past century. So that would be interesting. Yep. She was Solicitor General. And she was the dean of Harvard Law School. And I did not go there, but I know people who did. And from what I've heard, before she became dean, Harvard was a just terrible, backwards, soul-grinding institution. And Elena Kagan made it a place where you can actually be a person and live. So I'd like to talk about that too. Yeah. Maybe,
that's great.
Maybe get some barbs against Harvard in the meantime, but that would be very fun. And she just seems like an interesting person. So there we go. Cool. Elena Kagan is my first pick. Okay. The final pick of the third round. So now the first pick of the fourth round. Let me get my voice. With the first pick in the fourth round of the 2020 Anselm Society Fantasy Pub Table Draft, Matthew Mellema selects John Mccorder. So John Mccorder is a linguist professor at Columbia University. He's like one of these public intellectuals, so he'll like write op-ed pieces, and he has a podcast on linguistics called Lexicon Valley, one of my favorite podcasts. So he'll talk about just different aspects of linguistics. It's always interesting. He's a brilliant, brilliant dude, but he's also kind of a nerd in a pleasant way where he always intersperses like show tunes into his linguist podcasts. And he's also
that's awesome.
So he's also a fascinating dude because, you know, his background, African-American, grew up in Philadelphia. So he's experienced a lot of that. But he's also one of those people who kind of straddles a lot of lines and sometimes crosses over to different sides. So he's very much on the left politically, but he has sort of differing views. He is not afraid to like prod the left when they go overboard. He'll also go against. So I just think he's an interesting person who breaks down easy categories, fascinating person to talk to, I am sure. And he will make an excellent addition to my winning table. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I just Googled him, and it looks like, I think I read this article that he wrote in The Atlantic speaking out against the very popular book right now, White Fragility. So he does poke the left.
And that's interesting because he's very much on the left. So he's on a lot of issues. But like I mentioned, he's not afraid to go against his own side when he thinks they overstep things. So yes, I think he'll be a fascinating person.
Yeah. Okay, I approve.
Thank you.
Yeah, I approve too.
Yeah, Layfinger would like him.
You guys should both listen to Lexicon Valley. Excellent podcast. He's written a couple popular level books on language that are super, super interesting. He's written on history of the English language, sort of like Black lexicon, like African-American vernacular English, which is super interesting. And yeah, I just think he's great.
Yeah, I'm Googling like crazy right now. Okay. Anyway.
So is it
Mandy, make your announcement. Go ahead.
With the second pick in the fourth round of the 2020 Anselm Society Fantasy Pub Table Draft, Mandy Houck is now on the clock.
Okay, so I predict neither of y'all have heard of this one. This is my first youngster. I couldn't actually find his age.
He's very young for Mandy's table. He's so young. He's a ripe 75.
That they don't even know.
He's 78 years young.
Okay, his name is Micah Bournet. That's Bournes. Micah Bournet. everything just said he grew up in the 90s. So I was thinking, is that your age, Matt? Would you say you grew up in the 90s?
I was a child of the 90s, but I'm a millennial, so I came of age in the millennium.
Okay.
How
do you spell this guy's name? He didn't come up on Wikipedia.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You have to go to his actual website. That's why I couldn't find his age. So anyway, he's an African-American. The girls, my daughters, actually introduced me to him because he was a guest speaker / artist at a national Christian youth conference. And he is a spoken word poet.
Yes.
He is fantastic. I have posted, he has this one okay, so his spoken word poetry, a lot of it has humor in it, but it always has a point that you're like, oh. So one of my favorite ones that he's done that's really funny that I've actually posted on Facebook, not recently because I didn't want Matt to, grab him. But anyway.
I mean, that was my strategy going in, so I probably would have.
Yeah, I know you. But it's called Normal Hair. And he actually got the idea for the poem because he was at a white friend's house and he was taking a shower and he was looking at the shampoo and it was like, for normal hair. And he's like, yeah, I don't really think so. So yeah, it is awesome. But he's a spoken word poet, but he does much more than that. He actually started a group called Fight Evil with Poetry. Is that not the coolest thing? And
yes.
It's a consortium of over 30, pretty sure they're all Christian writers from really diverse backgrounds, and they publish anthologies of poems because he doesn't just do spoken word poetry. He also does hip hop. He has albums out for music, but he also has a recent book of poems out called Here Comes This Dreamer. And it's all poems, but it's actually like a memoir at the same time. And since I figured you guys would not know who he is, I have a quote from him as well, which is an excerpt from a poem. So this is an excerpt from a poem. There are enough gods already. None of them are healing. And yet we keep hoping. And yet here is hope. There is faith and laughter and the strength to keep singing, even when there's no music left. This is a glorious arrival. So, so he also has that, we're not going to deny the struggle and the darkness. We're going to press in and see what we can do about it. You know what I mean? So I highly recommend him. And I think y'all need to look him up and listen to his stuff because you'll love him. He's great.
I'm looking at his website and there's a link for, I think it's a sermon, but it's called Lack of Imagination is a Sin. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you got me.
Yeah, he does not.
I will be clicking that link.
Yeah, he is not subtle. Not subtle.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
So I will
Michael
say,
Bournet.
Cards on the table. I just followed him on Twitter while you were talking. So, okay. But counterpoint, Mandy, he doesn't have a Wikipedia page yet. Have you really made it in our society if you don't have a Wikipedia page?
Wendell Berry doesn't even have a dang cell phone. So
Wendell Berry doesn't even know what Wikipedia is, so.
I know. Actually, Bethany today, I actually said that. I was like, he doesn't have a Wikipedia page. And Bethany's like, make it. I'm all, oh yeah. So I don't know, Matt. Maybe by tonight he'll have a wiki page. But
one of the best things I ever did on Twitter. I read this article about this quasi-obscure, obscure in the West, but not obscure there. This Ethiopian saint. She lived in the 1400s or something, and she had an incredible life story. And I complained hey, she doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. What's up with this? I'm feeling putting on my sunglasses yeah, I had the correct opinion. And then a week later, I get a message from someone who is a scholar of this person, and she compiled a Wikipedia page. It was like, hey, all right,
awesome.
Shows kids, if you want to change the world, try complaining about things online. That's the best way to do it.
Okay.
But
the moral of the story is
complain online.
It works so well. I see it all the time.
I know, right?
All right, so
that's
Evangeline, you're gonna close out your table here now. So last pick in the 4th round, and then you're gonna have the first pick in the 5th round. So Evangeline, who is your last pick in the 4th round for the 2020 Anselm Society Fantasy Pub Table Draft?
Okay. Well, you guys are going to think that this is my cool card, but you should know better because you know me, right? I'm not capable of being cool. I stumbled across this person last night as I was looking for something else.
Oh, man.
And yes, an interview with her on Trevor Noah. And, or Trevor Noah was interviewing
I should have put Trevor Noah on my table.
I know. I thought about it. But anyway. Okay, so I was just like enthralled by her presence and her voice. Remember, like Mandy, I was saying, I just want these people to talk. I just want to listen to her say brilliant things in her incredible voice all day. So this is number 4 is Nigerian-born writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Do you
know? That's my 5th pick.
Yeah, you did it, Evangeline. Mission accomplished.
All right,
did
now
what
I
I could not do.
Okay, well, clearly I have to loan you. She wrote 2 of my favorite books.
Okay,
Dang
yes.
it.
Yes, because I knew her from the TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story, which is amazing. Talks about like perceptions and stereotypes when, people don't have.
For you.
Oh, yes. Oh,
I have a quote from it. I just crumpled up the piece of paper and threw it across the room in a snit, but I will pick it up. Oh my gosh. I know. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, Mandy, I'm on her Wikipedia page right now. She's only 42, so she is way too young for your table anyway.
Okay. I know, but Micah needs some company. Gosh dang it. Okay. And now I'm like totally blown. Okay. So here's a quote from her. I have to get my bearings. The single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story.
Yes.
Can she just sit between our table? No?
I mean,
all right. Okay.
I mean, maybe she could go and visit you, but...
I had alternates, but my first alternate was Leif Inger. So now I need another alternate.
Oh, Mandy. Oh,
okay,
Mandy.
Go ahead.
I could not have planned this better.
Dang it. Okay. Peter's in the other room going, why is she screaming? Okay, go ahead.
What is wrong with that?
All right, I'm looking at my bookshelf now. Y'all talk. Go.
Okay, yeah. So go ahead and, I have not... that I know of. There were a couple of her short stories that I think that I've run across, but I feel like I can't pretend to be anything other than an idiot because I haven't read her stuff. I've just, watched her interviews and watched her TED Talk.
I can loan you some books.
But she's amazing. So one of the things that I loved was, in the TED Talk, she talks about how she was educated with European stories. And when she read Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart at age 10 and saw herself in the page, she was inspired to write stories about, people like her. And that to me felt really familiar because, that was kind of how I was as a kid. And that was my experience with books. And then I can't even list all of her honors. She has
I'm looking through her bibliography, and she had way too much success at too young of an age, so I'm starting to resent her a little bit. But
no, she's awesome. My 2 favorites are Americana, which I just finished, but one of my top 5 books is Purple Hibiscus, which I loan out so often that I literally don't know where it is right now. I need to buy my own copy and not loan it out because Purple Hibiscus is amazing. So dang your time. Dang it. Okay. Now I got to Google all my other favorite people. No, he's dead. Dang it. Okay. Sorry.
Oh man, Mandy, you're on the clock now. So is this one of those situations where the clock's ticking down? You're calling other tables, trying to trade back?
Evangeline has one more. Give her one more.
Yes.
Oh, that's true.
Okay,
that's true.
Yes, I do
have time.
More. Okay.
You Google furiously right now, Mandy, and Evangeline will make her pick.
Okay.
So my final guest, I hope this doesn't cause you trouble, Mandy. So she needs no introduction. Malala Yousafzai, obviously. Okay. So the weird thing is, while I was, in this past week, as I was thinking about this pub table, I had a dream about her. And I was
and
like,
what has she written? I'm sorry. I'm
Malala. Malala is she Pakistani? She was
the
girl who was shot by the Taliban for standing up
won the
for
Nobel
education.
Prize, and
she did win the Nobel. She did win the Nobel Prize.
I thought she didn't. Oh, she did. Okay, good.
She did win the Nobel Prize.
Yes, I love her. Okay, yes. I'm sorry. Yes. Okay.
So I've of course admired her. I'm, you know me, I'm a feminist. And I actually watched a conversation with her and Emma Watson where they were talking about the word feminism and kind of feminist, I think, taking that back, from the connotations that it has, unfortunately, to just understand the meaning, which is equality for all.
Right.
But I love her passion and her poise and her absolute dedication to getting education for every child. She just does not stop. And I've been thinking about the power of a martyr who lives. And she said that when she was shot, they took away all the reasons that she had not to stand up, which is like, you think that would be the opposite. Like, you would be more afraid. But for her, that was, it's like the worst thing that could happen. But also, as she went through that, she talked about the outpouring of love that she received and just the bravery of that statement that, the worst thing that could happen took away her fear of anything else. And now she's unstoppable. So
yeah, I
thought that she would be an interesting sort of a little saint to add to a little saintliness to add to my table that might get a little raucous.
Russell Brand sitting next to the saint. That should be an interesting conversation.
I think, oh my gosh, they would have an amazing conversation.
Okay, I'll try to make this last as long as I can so you can find someone, Mandy.
No, I found someone.
With the second pick in the fifth and final round of the 2020 Anselm Society Fantasy Pub Table, Mandy Houck is now on the clock.
Yes. Okay. So this is someone that I actually ran across her because I was just reading. I don't remember how I ran across her. I'm not prepared. So I found this book and the title was intriguing. It is called How to Human, an incomplete manual for living in a messed up world. And I was like, who wrote that? Because that is a really cool title. So her name is Alice Connor. And she is a chaplain at, I think, Cincinnati, somewhere in Cincinnati, University of, I don't know. See what y'all did. Okay. I'm just kidding. Okay. She's an Episcopal priest and a chaplain on a college campus in Cincinnati. She also wrote a book called Fierce, subtitle, because we all have to have subtitles, is Women of the Bible and Their Stories of Violence, Mercy, Bravery, Wisdom, Sex, Salvation.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
That is quite the subtitle.
I know. And she and she has another book coming out in 2021 called Brave, and it's more women of the Bible. So I looked her up and I was like, well, that sounds cool, but what is she like as a person? And I looked her up on YouTube and she has like 12 subscribers. So no Wikipedia page for her either. But
when I typed her into Wikipedia, I came up with a little known English actor.
Yeah, she's an actor.
This other Alice Connor had a small role in the movie A Knight's Tale. That's nice.
Yes. I found that as well. And I was like, I want to watch A Knight's Tale again. But anyway.
Back to your Alice Connor.
But back to Alice. Yes. So there was something about her, one of her YouTube videos, she was just sitting there literally in a cemetery. And she was talking about, and it was very recent, just a couple months ago. And she was just talking about how hopeless everything feels right now. And then she sang a little song. And apparently that's what she does, because I watched several of her little YouTube things. So one of the things she does is she teaches, like, on her YouTube, she'll sing the little song. She's like, okay, now sing after me. And it's all like, what do you call that kind of music? Like, where it's prayers, but it's music. I don't know. Like, she sang one where she just said, it was like, peace before me, peace behind me, peace all around me. And then you can switch the word from peace to anything you want, like justice or love or joy, stuff like that. So she just had a really calming presence. And like, she's someone that I feel like would listen really well. And I actually ordered her book already. It just hasn't come yet. Yeah. So I think she would definitely enjoy Windleberry and all the other people at my table.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
and be interesting to listen to.
What if it comes out, like one of the other people here on this conversation mentions that she was only picked because the two other people you had in mind were picked before her? Would she resent you for that?
You would be the only one to tell her that. And that's dependent on your level of competitiveness, which means I'm probably in trouble.
Matt, you need to zip it.
I think she would be like, wow, that is so awesome that I was in the running along with these other people. I don't know. She's pretty chill. I would just sing one of her songs to her if she got agitated. I would sing a song and she would feel all better.
She totally seems like somebody that you would just love to have coffee with.
Right? Yeah.
Or sit at a pub table with.
Or sit at a pub table with. Yes. And have a gin and tonic or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if you all know this tradition in the NFL that the last person picked in the draft gets the nickname Mr. Irrelevant. So
yes, I did
I'm
know
going
that.
to pick the Mr. Irrelevant for this. And I'll just tell you, I have several names in mind. Since I have the last pick, I might as well just chat about them all with you. Okay. So one of my options is Alvin Plantinga. He is actually quite old now, but he is a philosopher. He was at Notre Dame for a long time, one of the most prominent philosophers of the past century, and also a prominent Christian philosopher. He's known for his free will defense, his various arguments for the existence of God, and he also made a very compelling case for the ontological argument, which, for those of you who remember your college philosophy arguments, will be very interesting. But one of the other reasons I want him on my maybe list right now, he is Frisian, which is a province in the Netherlands where my family is originally from as well. And he grew up in the same area of the Midwest where my family grew up. When I heard him talk, he sounds exactly like my great uncle Warren, which really throws me off because he's one of the most successful philosophers of the century. So that would be hilarious. Some other people on my list: Bill Watterson, the reclusive Calvin and Hobbes artist.
Oh, yes.
The reason I'm hesitating is, one, never meet your heroes. Two, he's a recluse and doesn't like talking to reporters. So would he just clam up? I don't know. Other people on the list: Bill Murray, obviously.
I think he would be mercurial, to use one of your favorite words.
Maybe.
You know what? I was thinking of him at the Russell Brand table. That would be bad. But your table, maybe.
Yeah.
Would I have him pairing? You know what? I think I'm going to go with Alvin Plantinga. I need a fellow Frisian there. I think listening to him talk and sounding like my great uncle will be hilarious. I love him explaining his ontological argument to John Mccorder and J.K. Rowling. I think that's what I'm going with. I'm going with Alvin Plantinga to tie up my table. So before we go, let's all go through our tables again and make your final pitch to the listeners as we go to the contest portion of this. So, Evangeline, go through your table.
Okay. I have Russell Brand, Maggie Stiefvater, and Dermot Kennedy, and my notes are out of order: Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and Malala Yousafzai. And we are a table with heart and a little bit of off-kilter energy and some artists and lots of wonderful talk that I just get to be quiet and listen to.
All right, Mandy, what is your table?
Okay,
after it survived
my table.
Me and Evangeline stealing all your people.
Yes. Not all, just one main one and one backup. I'm okay. So, my first string is I have Wendell and I have Faith Ringgold, painter and author and activist and cool person. Stephen Sondheim, we all need to give him a hug. Micah Bournet, he can do some spoken word poetry there right at the table. And Alice, crud, I shut that. What was her name? Alice Connor.
Whoa, doesn't even know the name of the person at her table.
I know. It's
wow.
terrible. Alice
What should the
Connor.
listeners
really
make
do.
of that? I don't know. I don't know.
I know. Now I'm like, oh, but Phil
They
Vischer
can make
too,
whatever
but
they
no,
want, I suppose.
They can make whatever they want of it. Because she actually is really cool. The only reason I wasn't going to pick her is because I was like, I thought it would take too long to explain who she was. But anyway.
Then I ruined that.
So yeah, that's okay. That's all right. I forgive you. It's good.
Oh, thank you. So,
All right. So
Yeah.
so now at my table, I have J.K. Rowling, most important author of the past, 20, 30, 40 years? I don't know. I guess that's cool. Elena Kagan, maybe the most important justice on the Supreme Court right now. John Mccorder, public intellectual / person of very, very important thoughts and feelings on our current fractured times. I have Leif Anger, who Mandy might think is the best author currently living. I guess that would be good for you, Mandy, right? I guess that's a good pick. And finally,
and you didn't
Alvin
know how to
Plantinga.
say his name.
I learned just now. And finally, Alvin Plantinga, one of our most important philosophers of the past century / great Uncle Warren sound alike. So, I don't know. It's kind of hard to beat. But anyway, thank you all very much for participating in the 4th or 5th, I need to look up my notes, annual Fantasy Pub Table Draft. It is always a pleasure. And for listeners out there, I'm going to figure out a way so you can vote on this. It's a formality, but you all need to vote for me before I can officially win. And thank you both very much for this. I always love this. It's one of my favorite podcasts of the year. And, well, as you can imagine, things are winding down at the Anselm Digital Pub. The fire's down to embers. The customers are trundling home. And Mandy keeps looking longingly at the tables where the people she wanted to draft are. Once again, Believe to See is a podcast of the Anselm Society. If you want to learn more about us, visit us at anselmsociety.org. Thank you all for joining us. See you next time.